episode is titled When Your World Turns Upside Down and How to Handle Life Transitions Without Going Nuts. Esosa, welcome to Fire to Inspire. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Esosa, we are so happy to have you on the show. And today she is a very special guest by the name of Esosa Saint Cyr, who is a transformation coach who helps her clients go from anxiety to serenity. We're going to go ahead and dive in on this amazing book. Again, it's called When Your World Turns Upside Down and How to Handle Life Transitions Without Going Nuts. And trust me, I know all about that. Okay. I think we all can attest to that because we've all enjoyed or had, parts of our lives where we're, so low and we reach those valleys and we don't know what to do to get out of those things. Can you kind of explain what inspired you to write this phenomenal book?
Well, when I was going through a divorce about maybe 5 years ago, my world literally, just fell apart. I never got married thinking I would go through a divorce.
Absolutely.
And so when that process was happening, I was going through a separation. I needed a year. It was such a difficult decision to make that I needed a year of separation before deciding if this was what I needed to do.
Absolutely.
And so after going through that process and saw that, the divorce was going to be inevitable, and going through the divorce, I started to pick up the pieces. And it was so hard. It was so difficult. I felt like I was mourning and I didn't get it. I didn't understand the cycle of grief. I didn't understand what was happening to me.
Yeah.
Today I'm feeling this way. The next day I'm like, and I kept asking myself, did somebody die? Because I don't get this. It wasn't until I went through, it was a class for people who were going through a divorce just like me, that I realized it was actually one of those emotions that really gnaw at you, because divorce is like a death.
It is.
It actually is a death.
It
is so hard, and a lot of people go through that, and it was very eye-opening for me. I always want to use my painful experiences to be a blessing to other people, because I remember a time where I felt like I really needed guidance, mentorship, leadership, and I was so lost.
Yeah.
And I felt if I had some of that, I would have known what to ask. I really believe that life, the quality of your life, has a lot to do with the quality of your questions. And I didn't have a clue what to ask. I just dove in. And at the time, and I think I'm a very smart person, and at the time I was doing thank you.
Absolutely.
I was doing the dumbest things, making the dumbest decisions. And in retrospect, looking back now, I realized, oh, wow, I really didn't know what to ask, didn't have a clue about anything. And so all of that experience inspired me to want to be the one that helps somebody out. Because for me to get here, someone said something to me at the right time.
Right.
Someone nudged me in the right way. Someone just probably gave me a hug. That's all I needed in that moment.
To breathe life back into you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's people like that have been in the pivotal moments where it doesn't seem like pivotal. Right. When you're really down and someone just breathes life in you with a hug, that feeling. So I want this to be like that kind of a hug. Because when you're in that process, that's the only thing you can see.
That's all you can hold on to.
Yes.
And that's all you like. Because sometimes we're so low, we don't know who to reach out to. And sometimes we don't want to reach out to anybody because you're going through humiliation. Yes. I know when I went through my divorce, I didn't tell anybody. I mean, it was a very tough situation to get over and just kind of, live through and survive every day. Yes. So I totally get it. But I want to go back into history because when I was reading this book, my Lord, it took me to a room where it was so dark. And your childhood, and I look at who you are now, and I cannot imagine what you went through in the past. So let's kind of go back to some of your pain points in the past during your childhood. I discovered that you went through a lot of unpleasant things with your mother. And can you explain some of the challenges you had to face with that?
Absolutely. Growing up on the maternal side of my family, my mom has a diagnosed with a mental illness. Her mother and her sister, So my mother's part of the family has had to deal with it. And I grew up in Nigeria where we don't really talk about mental illness. Right. It's very shameful. But I always knew that the women, that lineage, there was just something off. And with my mom, I always knew there was something off. But she didn't have a diagnosis at the time, but it was evident that something was seriously off. And it was a very difficult, very, very, very hard childhood. And I think one of the most difficult things about it was my gifting, which is my words, was the very thing my mom attacked. And so that made it very hard. I'm very sensitive to words. I'm really sensitive to it because that's the way that that's my makeup. It's to use it to bless other people and bless me. And so my mom didn't have it to give. And I've come to be okay with it. But when I was a girl, I did not understand what was going on.
I can imagine.
It was really hard. It was so difficult. And nobody understood. And all my friends are close to their mom. Their mom's their best friend. Yeah. So it was like, okay. Nobody understood. Nobody got it. And I think there was a part of me that felt a little resentful that no one rescued me from her. Because I needed, I was like, I'm going to be annihilated here if someone doesn't rescue me from this situation. Yeah. And going through it, I think I really got a breather when I left home for college. And I just wanted to be far away from everybody. Yeah. And I'm grateful for that because I got a minute to breathe. I really got a minute to breathe and wanting to really get over that. And overcome and that desire to, but I felt stuck.
Yeah, you had to break free.
Yes.
And that was your opportunity when you hit college. And a lot of kids, that's their opportunity, but I don't think, like what I read, some of the abuse, are we allowed to talk about?
Absolutely.
Some of the abuse that you went to, it was hard for me to read. I kind of got emotional reading it. I was like, wow, I could not imagine. Because most people that have relationships with their parents, it's not perfect. And we think, we have the worst parents. But reading your book, it just made me appreciate my parents even more. And I don't want to, hurt your feelings by saying that.
Not at all. That's a good thing.
But you really, really freed my mind by hearing what you went through and how you overcame it. But how did that actually affect your mental state?
Shame. A lot of shame and unworthiness. I was smothered, dipped, in shame. I felt ashamed. I carried shame for all of my childhood into adulthood. It was very hard not to feel that shame and unworthiness. Yeah. Because one of the things that my mom said to me over and over again that really left an imprint was that she said, "You are a failure. You would always be a failure. You're useless. You will always be useless." And at the time, I fought and said, "No, I'm not." I was able
you were
to
a
stand
child.
up. I was like, "I'm not." It wasn't until adulthood where I was like, "Wait a minute, I can't move on in anything in life." And it's not to blame her. What it ended up doing for me was it showed me the power of the subconscious mind. Absolutely. And that we're not left here to be destitute. Right. And that no matter what happens, there is always a decision that can get you out of it.
Yes.
There is always a decision. And I think with my mom, I think now where I am in my life is going, you know what? She didn't have it to give. So in my 20s, when I became a mother, I had to remove her from my life because of the toxicity. So she's not a part of my life. And a lot of people don't understand that, especially people from Nigerian culture. When I say,
that's
when they ask, it's a very odd conversation. Yeah. And usually from Nigeria, when you meet people from Nigeria, they ask about your family. Yeah. They ask about your parents. And when they ask, so how is your mom? Or, they expect. And I say, my mom's not a part of my life. It is a very odd thing to say.
I know. And I bet it's like, whoa, what's wrong with you? The first thing they're going to say is, what's wrong with you then? What did you do wrong?
Someone attacked me, was very judgmental. God, and I encouraged him. I said, you know what? Don't speak on things you have no clue about.
You have no clue.
I said, it's okay. Don't speak on things you have no clue about. Just let it go. But she's not, and because she doesn't have it to give. And I think a lot of forgiveness of her, but of myself. Wow. And just knowing that I do love my mom, I can say it now. I couldn't say this before. It took a lot of healing and grace because part of my story, even though it started that way, it's not all of it and it's not the end of it. But it is a powerful story that I want people to understand that they can be free from the worst of situations. And many times, the freedom we're seeking is just from our own minds.
Absolutely. And I want to kind of go back because you said the word toxic.
Yes.
And that is kind of hard for people to understand that you let her go. You freed yourself from her. And, you know, I'm getting chills because a lot of times we allow things. It's a choice because you wrote about choices in your book that we allow people to bring hell into our lives. And every day we're like, oh, that's just my mom. Oh, that's my dad. Oh, that's my brother. That's how she is. We make excuses, but when we get older, we have a choice on whether we allow, you know, toxic people, whether they're friends, family, cousins, it don't matter who they are, you know, in our lives. And so that's really big of you to do that. That is very, very big of you. So, like, how did you, I like how you asked the questions in the book, is there a lesson for me? Do you think that God was trying to give you a lesson out of that, being a child in that type of abuse? And that was a high abuse of what some of the details that I heard.
I think for me, I'm still trying to figure out this whole thing and have that conversation with God. Like, I went through my, you know, the period of time where I thought, what in the world? Why?
I know.
Couldn't you find something else? Okay? Like, I could have been this amazing person in any other way or whatever.
Yeah.
But I've come to understand that there's some things that I will not be able to fully comprehend, and that's okay. I just will not be able to fully comprehend it, let it go. And one thing I notice is things get revealed as I'm ready for them. So it's trusting the process that things get revealed as I'm truly ready for them. And I still don't understand it completely, maybe a decade from now, 2 decades from now, but I'm beginning to have a semblance of why. And for now, where I am with it is that it is something I can stand upon that I overcame and be encouraging to somebody else and say, you know what, you too can overcome, because family relationships are very complicated. And when you've lived in someone's womb and you come out of it, or your family, whatever relationship, whoever the person is, a sibling, a parent, an uncle, an aunt, or whatever,
right?
It is difficult to be able to untangle. This is the way I see it. If someone does not act, I don't mind letting you go. And I'm in a situation now, it's not even a point of addition. It's not a point of multiplication. If you don't come and raise what it is I already have by several exponents, bye. If you're coming to diminish,
bye, Felicia.
You can go. If you're coming to be stagnant, because some people would just come and hold you there.
And suck the life out of you.
Suck the life out of you. When you're stagnant, what happens? The water is infected.
Yeah.
It just stays there. It's stale. It's, and mosquitoes or whatever starts to grow in there. And that's not a good thing either.
Absolutely.
So it's very, very important to sit down. This is where the relationship and the reflection with yourself and whatever your higher power is, that constant reflection will reveal to you, because the answers are there if you're paying attention.
Yeah.
If you're listening, what you need is in there. And for the longest time, I was looking on the outside. Right. I needed validation. Oh, I was so desperate for validation.
You wanted attention that you never had as a child.
Much, and I didn't even know what it is I wanted. I just wanted someone to say, you are enough. Wow. You are okay, just the way you are. I just wanted that, and I never got it from the maternal figure.
Yeah.
And what I ended up doing, and still practice till today, is, what about you, Esosa? Can you nurture you?
Yeah.
Can you love on you a little bit? And practicing what that is, that's self-love. And the more I do it, the more the people in my life rearrange. It's kind of like a stage. I really do believe that God adds to you by subtracting from you.
Oh. That's when my relationship got really, really close with him, when I was taken to my last level, my last straw, when I was taken all the way down, stripped from jobs, anything. I think that's when you be able to see him and actually hear him. Because when you're up there, you're not thinking about him. You know what I mean? So I really am grateful that you got out of that situation. You freed yourself from that. But how has that made you with your own kids? Because you have 2 boys, right?
I do. Yeah. I have 2 boys. This was difficult. And for a lot of, your listeners people who are listening, know that when you're missing something and then you have children and you have to give what you don't have or didn't get.
Yeah.
So I use this scenario. I think of myself as a teacup.
Yeah.
And on a saucer. When I fill up, everything in the teacup is mine. Absolutely. Everything that overflows into the saucer, I give other people. It is my responsibility to make sure that my teacup is full.
At all times.
At all times. I must fill it up. And then I have the overflow to be able to give. Now, I've met people who seem like they're very giving, but they're resentful in their giving. When I say giving, like they're doing good works, but there is almost an energy of resentment.
Yeah.
And what I've learned is that it's because their cup, they're running on crumbs at the bottom. You know when something, water is all gone in the kettle?
Yeah.
And it's because there's nothing there. So take a minute, fill yourself up. That is perfectly okay. As a matter of fact, it is needed.
Absolutely.
It is necessary to give yourself the oxygen first before you can go and give it to anybody else. For example, if a mom is in the airplane with her children, they always say, put it on you first. Because when you fill yourself up first, your children by default will fill up first. They will fill up first because it's not something you really said. They absorbed it because you lived it. Yeah. And so they're there like sponges. And they don't even know that they're now just always filled up and always filling up. And not just that, but they know how to. Yeah. Don't even give it a second thought because that was the environment. And the environment starts from me. So, the question you just asked about how was I able to do it? I thought of myself as a thermostat in my home. I set the temperature.
I always say that.
I set the temperature.
I'm like, you set the temperature of the room.
You do.
And, I mean, you set the atmosphere when you do that.
You do.
Like, you either come in mean, guess what? The day is going to end wrong. If you're not coming in with a good attitude, you're going to spread that like it's a disease. You know what I mean? So absolutely. I really do believe that.
I really do. And when you set that temperature, to set it, it takes discipline.
Yeah.
It takes work. But my thing is...
It's repetition, right?
It's repetition. I would rather have the pain of growing than the pain of stagnation any day. Because I'm in pain anyway. I might as well be elevated in the process. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I love that. And I want to kind of dig in because you are a mom and you do have 2 boys. Do you feel yourself overwhelmed?
Absolutely. So I have lived in overwhelm so much that I had to sit down and have a come to Jesus moment with myself.
We all do.
Okay?
We all do, yeah.
And sit with myself and say, hey, so what's up? Okay? This is a bit much. We can't give from empty.
Ooh.
You cannot give from empty. So what do you need to focus on? What needs your attention right now? So I looked at my life and saw that I could be replaced in a lot of places, in terms of a job or a this or a that. But when it comes to my children, that's the job for me. I'm their mother.
Yeah.
So how I take care of myself will show up in how I take care of them.
Absolutely.
And my entire vision for my children is that they grow up and that they're happy. I want them to be happy. I want them to be joyful. Yes. I want them to be at peace. I want that to be the foundation of their lives. And then anything else you can build on it. And it's not the easiest thing to do.
Right.
But boy, is it worth it.
Oh, I know. I love it. I love it. And then you go on and you talk about anger. Now, anger is a hot one for me that I like to mention. Anger had its, whole hand around my neck at one time. And I thank God that I'm freed from that now. But again, it's all about choosing who you want to be. It's a choice on how you want to feel each day and wake up and look in the mirror. I had to say, look, I am not that person. I had to look at myself and say, I am not this upset? Why am I getting this upset? Why am I letting this or that person affect who I am and how I act or react to things? So I love how, you kind of go into how to free yourself from anger. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because it's definitely a mind thing.
It is.
So I love how you talk about the thought process and how to free yourself from anger.
I think with anger, for me, it's the choice of responding.
It's all it is.
It is.
It's a reaction.
It's a pause before what you do. It's just a pause. And so for me, I didn't have a pause. I just was a rocket.
I went spitfire.
Yes. Okay. It just goes. And I don't remember who I was talking with. And it would just, would just come out, and it would shock me sometimes.
Yeah.
But then it took forever for me to realize there was actually a little itty bitty moment before I responded.
Right.
And it all happened because I was paying attention. Mm-hmm. And that all happened because I started to quiet my world down.
Oh, yeah.
And quiet all the noise on the outside, because quieting my world on the outside, the inside became a lot louder. Wow. I could hear better and know what to do. Mm-hmm. And I felt so happy, because for the longest time I'm like, Esosa, you screwed.
I know. And then I would think back of those angry moments that I had, because I felt like I always had to validate myself, because I was the youngest out of 5, and I just felt like I always had to say my little piece on every little thing. But you're right. I had to get to a quiet place. I had to learn how to meditate and just shut up. Mm-hmm. I mean, basically just shut up and let it just all quiet down and think before you act.
Anger is one of those things that travels with cousins. Emotions, I call them cousins. Yes. Emotions travel with cousins.
And it does. It does.
They have like this
literally
group, and when the anger is there are other things that show up. And before you know it, everything's a hot mess, because, darn it, I said this. I was just, oh my God.
And you got to fix that. But guess what? If I break this glass, if I break it on the ground and I try to put it back together, it's never going to be the same. Yeah. So just imagine from anger if you are an angry person, for the listeners, if you are an angry person, make sure that you do pause, because before you act and react and think about what is your consequence, what is going to happen, how it can break your relationships with your friends or your family. And most of the time we show anger towards our family.
The ones we
don't show it out in the world at work or, but those are the people that we love the most. So we should be loving on them,
Yeah. And I've met people, and I think I probably have used this excuse before, where someone says, that's just the way I am.
Oh.
And I really believe that that's a very lazy way of explaining away something that you really need to focus on.
And that's somebody that's immature.
It's
just
okay
have to grow
up.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know. When I turned 30, it's just like the light bulb came on.
Oh,
not to tell my age, though, but anyway. Yes. So do you think that the past caused you to make wrong choices in your relationships?
It did, because I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a clue, but I was so sure. So this is the funny thing that has happened. When I was 18, I knew everything.
Right.
And as I got older, I know less. I know less. I'm not as certain as I was, because I was like, I know exactly how the world should work. I know exactly how my parents should have done things. I know how this person should have done that, and I was sure of exactly how everything worked. But as I have matured, thank goodness, I realize as the years go by, the only thing I'm certain of is God's goodness.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's just it.
Wow. So what did you believe about yourself that made you pick some of the relationships that you chose in life? For instance, your husband.
I felt that I was just fortunate that somebody wanted. That's it.
That's it. And do you know how many people think that way? And they jump into relationships because they weren't loved in their past, and so they make bad choices in their life. But yeah, go ahead.
I felt fortunate. And I didn't even know then until I started to evaluate what I was thinking, how I was thinking. And when I started to write down the thoughts that were going through my own mind and learn how to be quiet, what I was writing down, if somebody else had said that to me, those are fighting words. but I was saying it to myself on a regular basis and hadn't really taken the time to stop it and say, no, Esosa. So I was just fortunate somebody wanted me. And I think one of the most useless emotions you can ever have is unworthiness.
Oh.
Because what it does is that it would bring somebody to you to validate your unworthiness, and usually it will be unpleasant.
And they'll treat you that way.
Yes, because you have said, hello world, I'm unworthy. Is there anybody out here who can come and treat me poorly? Please disrespect me. Please do this. Please do that. Because I'm so unworthy.
Right.
Because and it sounds very simplistic, but the truth is those thoughts generate a frequency, an emotion, and an energy. And somebody who is on the flip side of that coin, who also feels unworthy, but it's the one who is the aggressive on the coin.
And that's the one that has a problem with their own self-esteem.
Exactly.
So you have they can't trust you because they don't trust themselves. So how did you find yourself getting out of that relationship with your husband?
I started when I turned 30, I had I call it a midlife crisis, or quarter life crisis, or whatever you want to call it.
Like, you are.
I was, I really panicked because I said, what's going on in my life? What am I doing? What is this life about?
Right.
Is this how I want to be? Like, what's going on? And I started to go through those emotions, and I wanted more, but I didn't believe I was worthy of more. So that marriage, I really just grew out of it.
Yeah.
Because staying in it was anchoring me down to the point of suffocation.
Oh, God.
And nobody in this world is worth me dying over, losing that purpose. And that purpose, that God-given purpose, to use my life in the way that He intends, it's too much of a cost.
Yeah.
And I was not willing anymore.
Absolutely.
And I said, you know what? It's time. So you better get it together, girl.
Yeah.
It's time. And I was, my biggest fear in life was to be alone. And I chose being alone over that marriage.
But honestly, you were alone because in your past, even though you had your father, which I know loved you very much, and you had your siblings, but it's nothing like not having your mother. I'm telling you, it's something about your mom when she gets sick. It's different from your dad getting sick. It's your mother. So when you don't have a mother and you basically explain in the book, like, I feel like I didn't have one, you were alone. Because, the mother is the one that's supposed to nurture you, love on you, show emotion that most men can't give like a woman. Women are very emotional creatures. Men are physical, Yeah.
That's so true. And when I was in middle and high school, we called it secondary school when I was growing up. I was in an all-girls school, and I feel like I got some of that, but it's not the same because these were my, my age, my age mates, and it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
But that helped give me a break from home. And I remember in school before going on the holidays, summer halls is what we called it, and my friends would gather around and just pray over me because I was about to have one of those summers.
Oh, no. Yeah.
And that happened towards the end of school, and it just became that, oh, my gosh, I'm going home for the summer.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the easiest thing. There is a void, and sometimes it will pop up. There is a void. But I think the difference is that I know where to go to fill it. I know how to feel.
Because you've identified who you are.
Yes.
And that's my next thing. Like, I want people that are listening to understand that they need to identify whether they're the messy middle. Are they the messy ones? They need to identify whether they're in a messy situation and get out of it, and move on. Because in the book you said, just get out of it. I like how brash you are. You're like, just go, move on. You said that, and we're going to lighten it up a little bit in this room, okay? So you said your thoughts can create a life that you love, or a life that you despise, or you don't love. Can you emphasize on it? How can one adjust their mentality and their thought process?
That's such a good one. It is so important. I think of me as like a software program. You need to be updated, often, and it's something that you need to pay attention to. For me, there was one person that really helped me with this. He was a pastor at a church. I just needed to talk to somebody so badly.
Yeah.
And I was able to get an appointment because he was a counselor as well. And we sat down and he starts to go through. And I told him, you know what? I don't know what's going on with me, but something's going on. I think a thought. I don't know the thought that I thought, but I know I feel crappy shortly after.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening. And he gets so excited. He jumps. It's like, whoa, this is awesome.
Did he get the...
He was so excited.
He got the Holy Ghost.
He was so happy. He said, you don't understand. People, I can do 3 sessions with you today. I know you're going to get it because people don't get it. I'm going to go far with you today. I was like,
and you know why he said that? Because you were hungry.
I was so hungry.
You were so desperate.
So much.
But in a good way.
Yeah, I was hungry and he could see
open.
that.
Yeah.
Very open. And he sat with me and he said, you sit down and you get quiet. You meditate, you pray. And you get really quiet and you start to write those thoughts down and ask God to help you, for those thoughts to come out and just come out, and do not edit. And I wrote, and I wrote, and I wrote, and I wrote, and I wrote. And when I read it, I'd never done that before.
Wow.
When I read it, oh my God, I went to smack somebody, but it would be me. So, I was like, you said what? How dare you say that? Who are you talking to? But it was me.
Just get it all out, Esosa. Get it all out.
It was me. And he really helped me with that. He said, and what you do next is you get a pen and you cross out every very negative thing you're saying and you replace it because they have to be replaced. Yeah. You must replace it. But he went extra and told me I should treat my thoughts like I'm at the airport. And I have something on me, like a weapon, and something contraband, and all the security. I set up the alarms, and then everybody is coming at me to take me down. And he said that thought, when that thought comes through, never, ever let it sit. It must be taken down immediately. Like all your alarms need to go. All the sirens need to go off. Let them go off. And then you attack it with truth. Now, the first time you do it, it might feel like a lie, but you do it anyway because you're making a new imprint. Then you hit it again. You hit it again. You do it again. And I cannot tell you a time frame. My only time frame is you do it until something happens. You make that imprint until something happens and it becomes your new normal. Yeah. And then the one that was there before will wither off, it will die off, and it will be replaced. Does it take time? Yes. Depending on how strong the negativity is in one's being. You're the only one that can know what that will be because you're spending time with you. And you just go. And go. The main thing, the most important thing is when you're going through hell, don't stop. Don't stop. Keep moving.
I love that part in the book. I was like, okay then. When I'm going through my hell, I'm going to keep moving. You have to.
You do.
You have to. So you stated that you can't trust today and then doubt tomorrow. So you got to trust the process. So it's all a process when you're trying to change your mentality, your thought process. And, you have to stick with it for the process to work, as you mentioned in the book. And if you're going through hell, you got to keep moving. But I love that part of the book because people do go through hell. Life is good. I love to say that, but life can be very complicated only if you let it. So we have a choice. So people need to start imagining a peaceful life. If you want joy in your life, you need to be joyful. If you want a happy marriage, start being happy. Start bringing some, spice to the bedroom, whatever you need to do. But like you said, just keep doing it over and over. Whether you're hitting or missing, just keep doing it over and over and over until you find your new you, your new normal. Yes. So I just love that. Oh my God, I just love that part. I love how you talk about celebration and celebrating big, even at your small wins. So let's go into that. Celebrating the progress, no matter how small. You mentioned several times in the book that this is very important. And why is this important to you?
It's really important because celebration for me is gratitude. It's so connected. Yeah. Whatever you appreciate will appreciate. Whatever you appreciate, appreciate. Right. And it's like you're putting out a signal that, hey, we celebrate over here. It doesn't matter how small it is. We celebrate life.
Yes.
And life is for the living.
Oh, my God.
We celebrate life.
Yeah.
And no matter how little the accomplishment is, you celebrate it. You're putting that in your mind, and you're putting that out there like a signal, like, hey, I celebrate. It's little, but I celebrate. And you do it little by little. It's like building blocks.
Mm-hmm.
You keep doing that, and then all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, and I've seen this in my life, that things start to change.
Yeah.
And sometimes I sit down and say, well, hold on, wait a minute, what's going on?
And I wish I was like that before.
Yes.
You know, just thinking that way and changing your mindset brings small miracles. And I would love, if you don't mind, for me to read. This is actually my favorite part in the book. I started shouting on this part, I'm going to be honest. So it says, you will not always feel like celebrating. Celebrate anyway. It is a muscle you want to develop over and over again. Life is always better when you have something to celebrate. The art of celebrating your wins informs the universe that you like to celebrate, and with time, you will see that you almost always have something to celebrate. Truthfully, your eyes will open up to little miracles. That made me smile on the inside. I was like, wow, that's true. All right, Esosa, give me the tea. I read about the tea in the book. How can you create change within yourself by always giving the tea? So what's the tea? Explain to me. So that's like you got time, energy, and then attention. What does that mean? Kind of break it down for me.
With the time, with transforming, and with the time, it's just setting a time that you honor and saying, you know what? And that's really how I started for any change to happen. I started waking up a little bit earlier because I was worth the time, energy, and attention. Just wake up a little earlier. And I was new to meditation, and I just needed that time. And I promise you, when I started, it was really hard because my mind, everything was all over the place.
Right.
And that, with the energy, I realized if I sat here and if I was consistent, I was rewarded with an energy and this thing that I can't explain it. It was uplifting because what I was doing was taking the time for myself. And the attention, and it was very weird. Yeah. Giving myself attention, in positive, loving attention, it grows.
Self-love.
Self-love.
Very
it will
important.
Grow you. Mm-hmm. It will absolutely grow you. And, you just talked about celebration. There was a time I didn't have any money. You don't need anything special to give yourself attention.
No.
Music. And a wooden spoon in the kitchen. It's all you need if you're wondering.
I love to eat.
And just like dance and do whatever.
Laugh at yourself.
Laugh at yourself.
Yeah, laugh and laugh at everything. I laugh at everything. I just love to have a good time, Even in my darkest moments, I always found, I don't care if I was partying, whatever, hanging from chandeliers, I always kept moving through my hell. That's very important. Keep moving. Be around people that love on you, that are supportive of you, and just, trust the process.
And, I just want to say this. You just said be around people that love you and are supportive. There's some times in the process where you feel isolated. And there was a time that I really felt that way because, like I said earlier, God adds to you by subtracting.
Yep.
And during that process, during that time, YouTube and anything positive that I could find, I put on. Yeah. I put it on. And during that time, my word was inundate. I inundated myself with the positive. Yeah. It would lift my energy. And I kept at it, and I kept at it. And I remember saying to myself, it really doesn't matter if I don't have anybody. I got the internet.
You got, and you're entertaining yourself.
Exactly.
And that's when you can invite love back into your life. When you can entertain yourself, you love on yourself, then you have room to bring other people into your life.
It's true. Your own tea.
Yeah, right? Yes. So forgiveness. And we're going to kind of wrap it up now. You have experienced hatred. Am I right? Mm-hmm. In your life? Yes. Now, how were you able to forgive all of the abuse and even through your marriage? I read some about your marriage as well. That was hell too. How did you get out of that prison? How did you forgive them?
My mom, I forgave because forgiveness is a prison that I put myself in. Mm-hmm. And for me, forgiveness, I was poisoning myself. I cannot have, really, my children, my oldest helped me with that. When he was born, I was so in love and just like my heart expanded having him. And then I realized that even though I love him so much, if I carried any kind of resentment about my mom or anybody, it would seep into that. It just will. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want that to be contaminated because he was so pure. I looked at him and I was like, oh my God, he's so beautiful. And I didn't want that. And so for me, that was the beginning of it. Yeah. And it's been, I didn't just forgive one time. Okay, things would trigger, and you forgive that layer. Yeah. Then you forgive the next layer. Then you remember that. Oh my God, that beep, beep, exactly. And you're like, how could things do that? I was only 7, and she said what, And then you forgive that, and you forgive that, and then I learned because I wanted to know. It's very important to me to know when I had forgiven everything, when I can speak about, think about, without any hurt, without any resentment, without any pain. That means what I have gotten from that now is wisdom without the emotional charge of all of it. And with my ex-husband, he was my college sweetheart, and boy, I was so ignorant, though. I didn't have a clue.
Weren't we all?
I know, right? I didn't have a clue about anything. Yeah. And he was my college sweetheart. He had great work ethic like my dad. He reminded me of my dad in a lot of ways.
And that's probably why you...
Yes, and he really did. And I thought we were going to just build this amazing life together. And I couldn't see what was in front of me. I really could. I didn't have a context to put it in. When I started to grow and started my journey of personal development, that was when the scales fell off my eyes. And I realized that, and this is the scenario that helped, and I'm sorry if I'm grossing anybody out, but I was thinking about it like different layers of garbage.
Yeah.
When you go to the bottom is probably the stinkiest. Mm-hmm. What I learned was that I was still in the ditch. I was just a little higher up. Oh. And so it looked as if it was still not garbage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it
took
my God.
growth for me to understand that.
And to see and
to be able to
actually
see
identify that.
And it wasn't until I had grown, matured, that I realized, we don't want a higher level of garbage. I'm not calling my ex-husband garbage or anything. Of course. But I'm just saying the things that I allowed, and I didn't like who I was because I didn't like myself.
You lost yourself.
I did. Mm-hmm. I really did. And as I started to grow, I realized I deserved more, even though I didn't feel like it at the time. I didn't feel it, but I wanted to learn how to feel like I deserve more. So my whole thing was to get out of any situation where I was being disrespected. Yeah. But the thing was that he wasn't doing anything new. I had already disrespected myself by putting up with certain behavior.
You just said it.
He wasn't doing anything new. It started with me. I had disrespected myself because people will give you red flags, and your maturity will help you deal with them. So, for example, if someone... And avoid them because it's very painful, because once it's been exposed, you now have to do something about it. And many times people just don't want to deal with it because it's too painful. It's so scared of the unknown.
Yeah.
And for me, it was going through that process where I said, Esosa, you did to yourself first.
I did. Oh my God, I feel like you're my sister. That, like, where have you been hiding? Because I've always said that. I felt like when people asked me about what my divorce was, they were like, I don't blame him. I just put it on myself. I say, you know what? It's not his fault. And you know, of course, we all had our parts in it.
Yes, we did.
But again, I disrespected myself first by choosing that and allowing him to treat me like that and to go through the abuse that I went through, you know? So I love how you just explained that. Because a lot of people do not get when I say that. Like, no, he did that. No, sister, no. No, I chose to be in that life because I was immature. And again, I was looking for love in the wrong places as well.
And we do a lot
we
of
all
that.
do it.
We really do. I remember being in this divorce care class, and everyone was just talking, and there was a class where people just sounded really bitter and angry. And I remember just saying, you know what I really want? I want to know why I chose that person. What was it about me that I believed that made me choose someone that would disrespect me in that way? I want to deal with whatever that belief was and never have it again, because we are not.
That was your frequency,
and
that was your energy.
Yeah,
and where your energy goes, energy flows.
Exactly. And I just sat down there. I was like, I'm not trying to figure out why he's doing this. I honestly just never want to repeat this again. And the class everyone was dead quiet, because I was just bringing it back to me. How can I fix this in me, this belief? How can I get it out?
Yeah.
So that I'm not in this relationships where I'm being disrespected, where I'm being disrespected, and I'm also participating in it because I have to defend myself.
Ooh, yeah.
And I said, no, I'm supposed to feel safe here.
Enough.
Exactly. Enough. No more.
No more.
And that's it.
Esosa, I am so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
I look at who you are and the woman that you are. It is absolutely astounding to think about or read this book, to see where you came from and to see who you are now. It's like, wow, I know God was in your life. He kept you, because you're going to help so many people that have been in those situations where they're angry, where they've been overwhelmed, where they've been stepped on, where they went through abuse. You're going to help so many people with your story. And don't ever stop telling it, okay?
Amen.
And I thank you for recreating your story. It's a beautiful one. I mean, absolutely. So we're going to go for the last question of the day, which is the star question of the show. What fires you up to do what you love on a daily basis?
Great question. What fires me up? So my name, Esosa, means God's gift.
Mm-hmm.
And what fires me up is to live out the true meaning of my name and to be a blessing to other people. To live it out in every way, shape, and form. From my life to bless people, to radiate out, so that those people can also radiate out, and so that those people can also radiate out. Because when we have change on that level, and we're bold enough to tell our stories, and we're bold enough to say, you know what, that happened to me, but it doesn't define who I am. I will use this to grow. I will use this to learn, and I will make different choices regardless. And then somebody gets inspired by that, and even if it's only one person, because I made different choices. My children will make different choices, and their children will make different choices. So we're changing destiny, we're changing legacy, and we're changing our lineage. And so for me, I just want that. I want to live it out at the core of my being, in the depths of my belly. I want to live out the true meaning of my name. So that's what gets me fired to inspire.
I'm so happy to see what you have going on next. Are you writing your next book? What are you doing next?
I'm working on a few book ideas and kind of working through that. So that's exciting for me.
Well, that's good. I'm very happy to hear what's going to happen next and what you have going on. And I bless you in all of your endeavors.
Oh,
okay?
Thank you.
I know everything's going to be fine. Yes. So thank you so much for joining our show, Fire to Inspire. And please tell us where we can find you on social media, online. Where can we find and buy this amazing book? Tell us all.
My book's on Amazon, so When Your World Turns Upside Down. And you can find me on successwithesosa.com, and it's the same handle on Facebook and on Instagram.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining this party with a purpose, and I'll catch you next week. All right, it's getting real hot up in here because I'm so fired up.
When they strike, we light up the world.